Megan from Aspire Health and Rehabilitation. I want to be taking you through some examples of mobility and corrective based exercises that I do as a part of my training routine. The aim is to correct any imbalances or dysfunctions that I have and improve my optimal performance. I incorporate them into my warm-up and cool-down routines as a way to clean up my movement patterns before I start adding load and different movements. And I'll do that before any training session that I do, whether it's Muay Thai, CrossFit, mountain biking or running. I also have them separately as my recovery days, so I can continually improve on my imbalances and dysfunctions and improve overall optimal performance. This takes roughly to 30 to 45 minutes, whereas the warm-up routines usually take 10 to 15 minutes. I'm using a foam roller as a self-myofascial release tool. The first one I'm going to be doing is for the upper back or the thoracic region. And it doesn't matter exactly where you start, but essentially you're going to roll from just above the shoulder blades to about mid-region. And I'm going to be using my legs to propel myself back and forwards. I also like to add some thoracic mobility exercises in, as I'm quite restricted in the thoracic spine and it impacts my overhead based movements. You can also check out another blog that I've previously written on thoracic mobility limitations on my website, www.aspirehealthrehab.com.au. You're essentially going to be doing these exercises from the top of the shoulder blades just to below them, and you're going to be working inch by inch up and down the thoracic spine of that area. Okay, so you position yourself with the hands behind the head, and essentially you want to take your head back towards the floor, or the shoulder, the tips of the elbows opposite behind you. When you do small movements as you progress your way on the spine. You may find some certain levels harder than others. The next one I'm going to be doing is targeting the posterior shoulder and a little bit of the trunk. So I'm targeting muscles like the lats and a little bit of serratus and the posterior capsule. You can use a ball, a lacrosse ball, for this one too, to really get into the posterior capsule, and I'll be showing you that one later. You're going to be on the side and you're going to be moving from the legs. You're going to be rolling up and down using your legs. And you're just targeting those tender areas, rolling yourself up and back, really getting into those tender spots. You're going to be doing this both sides, and you're going to be spending a little bit of time doing this, particularly if you've got really tender areas. This next one's for the quadricep muscles. You're going to be rolling up and down the foam roller, and you can really get into the medial lateral aspects of the quads, just depending on where exactly you're tender as well and tight. So you're positioning yourself on top of the foam roller, mainly the edge, which will be a bit better. And you're just rolling yourself up and down. And you're just moving yourself medial and lateral. Getting up high and getting up a little bit lower towards the actual kneecap itself. Now I'm going to be doing the gluteal muscles. I really like using the alpha ball or a bigger ball to really target some of the specific areas, particularly the tender areas like the piriformis, if you can't really hit it with a rumble roller or a foam roller. Okay, you're going to be sitting, you can either sit in the middle or on the edge. I like sitting on the edge a little bit so I can really get my legs into it. Essentially, you're going to be rolling yourself up and down, getting a little bit more into the hamstrings, and you can move yourself side to side, medial to lateral. I'm still continuing to work down the chain now. So now I'm going to be targeting the hamstrings and then the calf muscle, so the gastrocs. You can either position yourself so you've got one leg over the other, but I don't like doing that. All essentially I'm doing is just rolling backwards and forwards. Again, you can target the more medial and lateral aspects of the hamstrings. Okay, going from just underneath near the knee all the way up, a little bit into the glute muscles still, so you're still targeting them too. Again, you can use other tools like a rumble roller or a ball, depending on what you want to do. You like to double up on the legs to really get into the calf muscles. I also use a massage stick as well, and again a ball to really target the calf muscles, so I get quite tight. I do suffer shin splints, which I have mentioned previously in my shin splint blog. So essentially I'm just going to double up my legs, and I'm just going to be moving up and down the foam roller, really targeting those tender areas, particularly my one's more lateral. Again, going from the Achilles all the way just underneath the knee, or just before the knee. And you can use a rumble roller, like I said, to get a little more into it. This next one's the ITB. You're going to be essentially foam rolling the whole length of the ITB a little bit into the TFL, okay, which attaches onto the hip. Now you're going to be doing it nice and slowly. I'm currently writing a blog on the iliotibial band friction syndrome, about the injury prevention and management type strategies, as well as what is it and why it happens. And I'll be going a little bit more into detail as to why you do it really slowly. I see a lot of people smashing it really fast. You don't want to do that. You want to be inch by inch. You want to work your way up and down the leg. Okay. You're going to be positioning yourself on the side. Now I like to use my opposite leg to propel myself up and down. Okay. Essentially, you're just going to be working up the top of the hip, and really slowly you're working your way back down just above the knee. Okay. And again, you can work yourself medial, a little bit into the quads, okay, as well as lateral, so a little bit into the hamstrings and the glutes. Really slow. And you want to find those tender areas, and you want to stop on them, and then you continually do. I'm now going to be using a lacrosse ball to target some muscles in my chest, okay, particularly what's called the pec minor, which essentially attaches up onto the coracoid process. Now this particular muscle is also contributing to internal rotation of the shoulder, which can lead to some poor movement patterning and limited range. Essentially you're going to be placing the ball on the muscles, just underneath the bone, okay? You're going to be moving yourself around, pushing yourself into the ball. You're going to be needing a door frame or a pole for this. Once you find certain tender areas, you're just going to take your arm up and down. So what essentially you're doing is stretching that muscle as well. So you're putting some pressure on that muscle, holding it in place, and then you're going to be moving your arm to really try and stretch those muscles. You can do different movements with it, really just finding the tender areas of that particular region. I'm now going to be using an alpha ball to target my gluteal and piriformis muscles. You can use a smaller lacrosse ball. It is a lot harder than this alpha ball. Otherwise, if you don't have one of these, you can find something a little bit bigger. If you really want to, if you're tough, you can use a lacrosse ball because it will be quite sore. Essentially, it's going to be sitting on top of the alpha ball or whatever ball that you are using. You can roll yourself up and down just in this position, and you can tack your leg up and down, you know, flexing and extending. I like to externally rotate by placing my heel on my knee. And essentially I'm just going to be moving all around the gluteal area, finding the really tender sore areas. Now it's going to be quite sore, but it's really good. So you're just going to be finding those tender areas, position yourself on that particular area for a certain amount of time, and then moving on to another area. I'm now going to be using my yoga chin-up balls to target my shins. Okay, so either side of the shin bone, okay, the lower limb muscles. You can have a lacrosse ball. If you have two and you can tape them together or have a mesh pouch, whatever the case is, you don't necessarily have to have the yoga chin-up balls. I find this one really good to smash the shins, as I suffer from shin splints. Essentially, you're going to be placing the ball in between the ball where your shin bone is, and you're just going to be rolling the ball up and down your shins, really targeting those those tender areas. And if you find any particular sore or tender areas, just hold that position, and you can tack your foot into flexion and extension, or dorsiflexion and plantar flexion. This next one I'm going to be doing with a stick or a dowel. You can also use a broom, like a broomstick as well, to really target the thoracic region. I'm going to be positioning myself up against the wall to stop my body from compensating and cheating. And I do this one 2 different ways, and I'll show you the first one first, which I do at home in my recovery days, and the second one, which I do standing up, which I do in the gym before training and after training. So I'm just positioning my hands on the dowel and positioning it above my head. I'm really trying to get my arms flat up against the wall, which I do struggle with, and that's why I'm doing this particular one. Okay, and essentially it's going to be pushing the dowel up as far as you can go comfortably. And down, trying to keep my elbows and arms on the wall, which is difficult for me. And you will feel it, or I do feel it in the thoracic spine. So it really depends if you're restricted or not, but this is the one I normally do because I'm quite restricted. The second one you do is standing up. It's a little bit hard when you've got things like this here. But again, back up against the wall, dowel above the head, and again, you're just going to be pushing it up, keeping your arms, shoulders, and bottom and back up against the wall as well. Okay. So that's part 1 of my 2-part series of mobility and corrective based exercises that I do to correct my imbalances and dysfunctions that I use as a part of my warm-up and cool-down routines as well as my recovery days. For more information about injury prevention, rehab, health and performance, check out our website www.aspirehealthrehab.com.au. We're also on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter and YouTube.